What's going on, everybody? Former MLB outfielder Austin Jackson here. Look, do me a favor and go check out my man Chris Pome's podcast, 30 Minutes Live with CDP. You can tune in Wednesday and Friday nights on Apple, Google, Anchor FM, and Spotify. And you might even get a special guest appearance from yours truly. Take care.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of Live with CDP podcast. Anyways, originally it was supposed to be 5:30, but something came up with my guest, Mike Kakuk from CKLW 800 in Windsor. But Mike is going to come on just now. Things do happen. So I've learned one thing with even with a podcast, you have to be flexible. And I really appreciate Mike coming on tonight after a long day at the station as well. I look forward to speaking to Mike. Mike's been with the station for over 20 plus years, and he's a huge Detroit Lions, Detroit Tigers fan, Red Wings fan, and I believe Pistons too. So just give me 1 second, and I will bring on Mike, who's a co-host of the Mike and Lisa show, The Morning Drive on CKLW 800 in Windsor. So give me 1 second, guys. I appreciate everybody watching tonight. Unfortunately, right now I'm live on YouTube and my Twitter page. Facebook apparently has been down since 12 o'clock today for maintenance. So I will download the audio of my podcast later to my Facebook page. So just give me 1 sec, guys, and I'm going to bring on Mike Kakuk. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hey, good. Chris, what's going on? I think we made it on despite all the social media drama as we're doing this live. I think we made it.
Yes, and I really appreciate you coming on today. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you sooner, but I'm working midnights currently on my overnight job, and I didn't get up to 4, and then I saw your message and that. So, but I've learned, like I said, I've learned with even doing the podcast, like I mentioned, you have to be flexible, and things do change in radio and podcasting, or even with TV. With Rogers TV, I do camera work. Things do happen that you don't expect, so you always have to be willing to be flexible and work on the fly.
Yeah, shift on the fly, right? That's what you got to do. So, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. I subscribe to the podcast. You've had some great guests over the weeks, and it's cool to be here.
Yeah, I started this podcast March 2020 as a memorabilia show because I collect lots of cards and autograph photos and stuff like that. And then eventually I started working on my podcast, and somebody from Philadelphia, my friend Jamie, got me onto StreamYard, and it's just amazing. I can put graphics on my podcast, and as you know, I put Comerica Park on there for you tonight as the background.
Love it. My favorite place to be. That out of all the sports, out of all the teams, the Tigers are it for me.
Well, and I was quite happy this year. I know everyone's like, oh, they only won 77 games, but they weren't even expected. I think they were predicted to win 68 wins this year. And I think A.J. Hinch, Chris Fetter, the pitching coach, and the entire coaching staff did a really good job with the team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing what they did, especially after April, and they come out of spring training, and they struggle right out of the gate, right, Chris? I mean, it doesn't look good. It's going to be another season of 100-plus losses, maybe 110, whatever it's going to be. And then all of a sudden, first week of May, what's the date they always quote, May 8th or whatever, things just turn around.
Yeah. They started the season, yeah.
Started to buy in, it seems like, to what A.J. Hinch and his staff were preaching maybe through spring training and even the messages in the offseason and that first month of the season. And they became a ball club. And for the first time in about, I don't know, since maybe 2016, I actually enjoyed watching and listening to the games this year.
I totally agree. I think they started the season out 9-24, and then May 8th, May 9th, that's when things clicked. And the rest of the season, I believe they were over 500. And they had like 3 or 4 consecutive months of over 500 baseball. So I do like the fact that there is hope for the team, and Avila seems to have done well with his draft picks lately. But I think the biggest move was getting A.J. Hinch. Regardless what you think of A.J. Hinch as a manager, I know some of the Blue Jay fans and their media people don't like Hinch. Whether you like him or not, he can manage.
Without a doubt. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous for, what do they win, 77 games, for a 77-win manager and team to be considered for manager of the year, but if there ever was, it would be A.J. Hinch. Now, do I think he's going to win it, and do I think he should win it? Maybe not, but I think he's in the conversation for what he did with his franchise, not only with the record this year, but also with the changing of the culture. I find there's just a different culture to the Detroit Tigers after this year, and that the more small ball fits Comerica Park, and I think they have a team that fits Comerica Park for the first time since they moved to Comerica from Tiger Stadium.
And the fundamentals, I've noticed that they were bunting more, they were moving runners over, sacrificing, stuff like that. That has seemed to go to the wayside, I think, in Major League Baseball over the years, where teams are just reliant on the 2-run or 3-run grand slam home runs and that. So I really do like the fact that this team has a direction now, and I'm hoping Avelia in the offseason can add a shortstop, and maybe another shortstop, a big bat, and probably a veteran pitcher, in my opinion.
Yeah, you got to look at the pitching, right, Chris? Because, you looked at it this year, and it didn't look great, and then it turned out to be not bad, and then you start losing pieces, and I think this is where A.J. Hinch and Chris Fetter, the pitching coach, really stepped up. The fact that you lose, I guess you consider going into the season your two best starters, veteran starters in Turnbull, who threw a no-hitter in Seattle, but and then boom, the next day it seemed like he was on the IL, and Matt Boyd, who has been here for years, left-hander, pitches, serviceable and not a number one, but a strong 3 on good teams. You lose those two guys, then you're relying on the kids like Skubal and Mize, and then you bring up Matt Manning, and they held themselves, I thought, very well through the season. And then A.J. Hinch and his staff pieced together with whatever, Tyler Alexander, bullpen by committee. You get, some surprises out of the pitching staff. You move Fulmer to the bullpen, and you think, what are they doing? They need starters. But that turned out well as well this year.
I was gonna say, would you like to see Fulmer to be the 8th inning guy, the setup guy, and then Soto for the 9th, or would you like to see Soto to become the 7th, 8th inning guy and have Fulmer as a closer? What's your take on that, Mike?
Well, I think, the idea of a guy, your closer, being the 9th inning guy may be a little passé now in the world of analytics when it comes to baseball. I think you're going to play more matchups. So if you see guys coming up in the 8th inning, who's coming up? What's the best matchup? What's the career numbers against Soto? Career numbers against Fulmer? You throw Cisnero into the mix as well. Okay, we're going to give Soto the 8th. Then we're going to give Fulmer the 9th. I think it's more of a matchup issue rather than a guy just being your closer, like kind of is more old school.
I was going to say, yeah, that's true. Baseball has changed so much since the 80s when the starters like Jack Morris and Dave Steve would pitch 9, 10, 11, even 12-inning games.
Yeah.
And pitch 275 to 300 innings a year. And now it's like maybe about 150, 160 innings.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the game has changed through this analytics and what they're learning about pitchers' arms and stuff like that. I mean, you're right. Back in the 80s, we're growing up, we're watching all these guys. If they don't go 7, 8 innings, it's really not that good of a start. You go to our dad's, age,
Yep.
you talking about Mickey Lolich and these guys throwing 300 innings, but then you see like what happened to Denny McClain after a few years. Like It's the rare guy that can keep going, and even through the 90s and early 2000s. We see the wear and tear on a guy like Justin Verlander, who had to have Tommy John surgery and has had injuries. So they're trying to protect these arms as much as they can, with a Mize, with a Skubal. You saw 3-inning starts the last part of the season. I thought that was a cool way, instead of shutting them down, still get them part of the team and in action, but limit their innings. It's amazing how much the game has changed, both on both sides of the ball, defense, pitching, and in hitting as well.
I was going to say, speaking of Justin Verlander, would you like to see him come back to Detroit and finish his career as the Tiger? Or do you just think his age, wear and tear, and coming off Tommy John surgery would be a little too much?
I would love it. I think it would be a awesome capper for his career. I expect, hopefully, with front office changes, with the steps they made this spring, that the Tigers are going to contend for a wild card next year. I totally expect that. If they're not, I'll be very disappointed. And I think you add a veteran like Justin Verlander would be outstanding, kind of like a homecoming, a capper to him and Cabrera's career. Who's Cabrera's going to play 2 more years. I can't believe we still have him for 2 more years. God love Miggy for what he's done. He'll get his 3,000 hit early in the year next year. But I think it would be a very cool story. But you also can't think with your heart, if you're Al Avila, if you're Chris Ilitch or whoever, that you can't throw $20 million at this guy, $15 million for a guy who hasn't pitched in a year and a half and is 39 years old, just because you want to see him wear the hat you are wearing, Chris.
Yes, I agree. And the thing is, I don't know if Verlander's ego would want him to still be a number 1 too, because I think right now your future is with Scudero and Mize and Manning. Those guys. So would Verlander be willing to take less money to come to Detroit and maybe be a 4th or a 5th starter?
Well, yeah, it seemed like, if he's being genuine, he loved it here. He loved Detroit. He loved the city. I mean, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, which he will, I would think first ballot, I think he will be wearing a Tiger hat. He won't be wearing an Astros hat. You got to put your ego aside. The guy has a big ego. He'll want a big paycheck regardless. I don't know. It's like almost like, let somebody else take that risk. Let's see how he does for a year, maybe on a 1-year deal, and then bring him back at 40. Because I know he's always talked about pitching like Nolan Ryan as a power pitcher into his mid-40s.
I was going to say now he might have to readjust that, because at his age, the wear and tear and having Tommy John surgery, he might have to learn how to pitch even more than relying on his fastball that he did for many years.
Yep, and guys have made that transformation, right?
Yes.
And I always think of Frank Tanana, who was a power pitcher back in the 70s, went through arm struggles and turned into the biggest junk ball pitcher you will ever see, and it was beautiful to watch. This left-hander throwing this sweeping curveball at probably 70-some miles per hour, getting guys out at a major league level. And it's funny, this is the second time I've talked about Frank Tanana today. I had Joe Siddle, a Windsor guy, former Tiger and Blue Jays analyst, on our program this afternoon when I was on, and his first major league hit, Chris, was off Frank Tanana.
Wow, that's cool. I did not know that. I have met Joe at the Rogers Center, and he seems like a really nice guy, and I enjoy his work on Sportsnet with Jamie Campbell. He seems like a really good, decent guy.
Great guy, and I'm familiar with his family. His brother and nephews grew up on my street, and the thing about Joe is that it's amazing, and it's something with catchers, because you see all these managers who are former catchers, like A.J. Hinch, like Jim Leland, never made it to the majors but was a minor league catcher, and you see all these catchers that become managers. It's something they, for some reason, from their perspective of the game, dealing with the pitchers and still being a hitter and defensive calls, that they make the perfect managers. And I wonder if Joe would be a great manager, but the way he sees things when he analyzes it is truly amazing. A couple weeks ago, he was showing how one of the pitchers of the Blue Jays was tipping his pitches by just a little movement at the set position. I'm like, how do you ever see that? I would never see that. And it was amazing that what these guys see, and I'm sure coaches see and pick up and move and pass on to the players.
Well, the way I've always looked at a catcher too is they're like a coach on the field. They have to know the defense. They have to know what their pitcher is throwing, what their best pitch is, what they should avoid, and they constantly have to think behind the plate.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, one of the most important positions. You're kind of the quarterback of the baseball team, so you're behind the plate. You know what's going on in all aspects of the game. You're out there with the pitching coach or manager and pitchers. It seems like everybody comes in for the conferences now. I don't know when that started, but it seems like everybody's out there. So yeah. Anyway, Tigers. I enjoy them. I don't know if I missed a game between radio and TV this year. That will tell you how much of a Tiger fan and baseball fan I am. And I'm looking forward to the playoffs, despite the fact that the Old English D is not in there again this year.
And I was going to say, I really enjoyed Dan Dickerson. He's done a nice job with following in the footsteps of Ernie Harwell and Jim Price. And also the TV. I have to admit, I was a huge Mario and Rod fan for years.
Love those guys. Great job.
I had no idea they disliked each other that much in person, but they always kept it off the broadcast. Like, to me, I always thought they were pretty close or whatever, but I thought they were great. Like, to me, the two best TV guys were K-Line and Cal, obviously, and Mario and Rod. But I have to admit this, at first I struggled with Matt Shepard, but Matt I think, has done a nice job now, and I kind of like his work now. And I'm glad I don't want to get into politics with Jack Morris, but I'm glad Matt Morris is back too, because Jack, I think, is a very good analyst. And Jerry Howarth, who I had on here, said he helped work with Jack when he was with the Blue Jays in 2013. So I am glad Jack's back on the broadcast.
Yeah, Jerry Howarth on your podcast?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God, the guy's a legend. I remember when we were kids and we were able to pick up Blue Jay broadcasts. I don't even know what station it was. I think it was one of the Leamington stations. Maybe it was CHYR at the time when they were on the AM dial. And they had Blue Jays broadcast, Tom Cheek and Jerry Howarth. And, you know, I wasn't a Blue Jay fan, but I loved listening to baseball, and I would listen to those guys all the time. I mean, you talk about some of the best baseball broadcasters of all time. You mentioned Ernie Harwell. You mentioned Dan Dickerson, who I think is just an outstanding broadcaster, too. And then you mentioned Jerry and Tom and some of the calls and history they've been a part of with the Blue Jays. We've been pretty lucky around here to have some amazing broadcasters for all the teams.
Definitely. And like I said, I reached out to Jerry 6 months ago. I figured it was a long shot, and he messaged me on Facebook, and he said, I like what you're trying to do. And he came on, talked to me for over an hour.
Wow.
And gave me some good advice. And I found out he's a huge 49ers fan. And I also found out that he originally applied for the Toronto job in '76 along with Tom Cheek, but didn't get it. And then he almost ended up in Oakland in 1980. So really nice guy, and I'm very fortunate to have him on my podcast.
Oh, absolutely. Congratulations, you know, and that's a good example of, you know, podcasts are everywhere these days. And, you know, people say, wow, you know, I'm sure initially you said, oh, I'm not going to bug Jerry Howarth. I mean, the guy's like a legend. And, you know, good guy, came on your program. Good for you. You know, you can only get a no back. You know what I mean? You'll never know if you don't ask.
That's true. I've had some rejections, but I've had a lot of guys come on, like Chuck Swirsky, Dan Shulman, and it's like, wow. And everyone, including yourself, Mike, have been very supportive of what I'm trying to do. And like I said, a podcast is only as good as their guests. And like I said, I'm very lucky, and I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Love doing it. Love talking sports. And it's true. Watching people that, you know, we love broadcasting, and you can tell you love doing this. So, you know, it's easy to get involved and want to be on a program like this. And, you know, you talk about another great broadcast. Dan Shulman is just so good as well.
Yes.
I mean, he's done everything, like on ESPN. He's done baseball. He's done basketball. And he does a great job, too.
Yeah. So if you don't reach out to people, you never know. If you don't try, you know what I mean? And even if someone says no, I don't take it personally, and I keep working hard on getting other guests, and like I said, trying to improve. One thing I wanted to show you is, I know you're a big Trammell fan like I am. I have his rookie.
That's the rookie card.
Rookie card from '78 with Paul Molitor and Mickey Klutz and UL Washington.
Does UL Washington have the toothpick in his mouth in that one? I always remember he had a toothpick all the time.
No, not in this one. No,
not in that one.
No.
UL took the toothpick out for that photo. I have that very card as well, Chris, that is hanging, and you can see over my shoulder my autographed Alan Trammell jersey. Yep. That is up in my basement studio that I have.
And then I have Barry Sanders autograph card.
You talk about the best ever right there. I mean, there'll never be anyone like Barry. And I got Eisman's rookie.
I have his rookie card, and I also had him sign this '89 Topps card for me in Buffalo.
Nice.
About 25 years ago.
Very nice.
So
you're talking about the best of the best from all the Detroit teams right there, especially from when we were kids. And you know, to think about Barry Sanders and the uniqueness of what he did, his style of running, I don't think we'll ever see that again. I mean, he was so unique and so great. And it's lucky for us he was a Lion, unlucky for him, because what he could have done on a team that was, you know, maybe better prepared to win. Because I think the Lions teams back then had quite a bit of talent. They maybe just didn't have the coach at the time.
I was going to say, and if he had played on Dallas with that offensive line back in the 90s, he would have had 18, 19, 20,000 yards rushing. And Emmitt Smith, hey, I think he's a great running back. but for him to call himself the greatest is arrogant. And to me, Barry Sanders and Walter Payton, to me, Walter Payton and Sanders are the two best in my lifetime.
Yep. I'll agree with you on that. I remember watching Walter Payton as a young kid and just the power and the grace that he had, going through the holes and jumping over the pile and being part of those great Bears teams. I mean, he was amazing too. But, I mean, nobody can match Barry in entertainment value. If you go on YouTube later after you're watching this podcast, hopefully you are, and put in, like, highlights of Barry Sanders, maybe he is before your time, you'll be shocked at what this guy did and could do.
Yeah, and the Lions didn't have the greatest offensive line either of those years. They had a good team, but I don't think their O-line was their strong suit.
No, I mean, it was decent. You had Glover and Lomas Brown, on the line, and then unfortunately you lost a couple guys. Mike Utley, tragic to his where he got paralyzed on the field, and you also had who was the other offensive tackle that Andelsek, who was killed like in a freak accident where he got hit by a car while like doing yard work or something. It was crazy. But they, Herman Moore and Johnny Morton and all those guys. I mean, I'd die for those guys right now, considering the Lions, as we record this, are 0-4 after another loss.
And I picked them to win last night, yesterday, 17-14. But yeah, and I also had Matt Derry on my show too, and he's a really great guy too. And I told him, I said, every time I pick the Lions, they lose. And then when I think from now on, I'll just stay out of it. But
just pick them to lose, Chris, every week, and you're going to come out ahead. I'll guarantee that. And Matt Derry, shout out to the Diesel, great guy. Known him for a long time. I used to intern at WDFN when he first got there.
Definitely, and I'm going to actually have him back on in a couple weeks to do a Pistons preview show with him. And it's just, like I said, Mike, it's been unbelievable, the connections and the contacts they've made on here. And I've actually made a lot of friendships doing this as well. And I really, like I said, I'm very appreciative of this opportunity.
Hey, good stuff, man. You're doing a great job. I mean, you're getting great guests. Is it every week you're doing this, recording it live on Mondays at 6:30? Or actually, we're supposed to record this at 5:30, and then I had to work again this afternoon. So we appreciate people tuning in maybe late. And you can see that, or you can listen to it too, right? Later on different platforms.
Yeah, audio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, Radio Public, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and on my LinkedIn page as well.
They all say, wherever you get your podcasts, you will find this podcast.
Okay. Mike, can I ask you just a few questions? Are you okay for time for a little bit longer?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Let's get a few questions.
I don't have to get up for work until 3:30, so we're good. It's 6:53.
Okay. Well, like I said, I just wanted to ask you some questions and that, and definitely wanted to talk to you about the Tigers and that. And as for the Lions, you got to give Dan Campbell some time. You can't. It's like with the Eagles. I'm a Nick Sirianni fan, Eagles fan. You can't just fire a coach after 1 year. You have to give them time to change the culture, which takes a little bit of time. And I really think they need to at least give Dan 3 years behind as a head coach, in my opinion.
Well, he's got the 6-year deal, which I was shocked by. That I'm like, I think the coach has a 6-year deal. The GM has 5. That's weird. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Especially for a rookie head coach coming in. Like, don't you look at it more of a 4-year deal realistically, and that turns into basically a 3-year deal because you never get fired at the end of your contract. It's always with a year left. I don't know what to think yet. I was impressed before the season, the off-season moves. I thought the Stafford deal was pretty good, considering what they got for an aging quarterback. It was good for Stafford. Still root for the guy. And are they on tonight, the Rams? Do they play tonight?
No, it's Raiders and Chargers on Monday Night Football at 8:15.
There you go.
I believe they're in LA at the new stadium there.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, all right. So you got that, but I'm still rooting for Stafford. I hope he wins the Super Bowl, and I bet you he does. Part of the Lions' curse and jinx is that Matt Stafford, their quarterback for the last whatever years, goes to L.A. Where he wants to be with his buddy Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. Dodgers win the World Series. Stafford wins the Super Bowl for the Rams.
Well, right now you might chuckle at my Super Bowl prediction, but
Okay. You're not going
as
to
of
say the Lions are going to run the table and make the playoffs, are you?
no, as for week 4, at the end of week 4, it's not going to be the Eagles because the Eagles are in a rebuild. But right now, I would think right now it would be the Cleveland Browns and the Arizona Cardinals.
Cleveland Browns, Arizona. Wow, that's way out of left field, Chris.
Well, I was gonna say Arizona's 4-0 right now, and Kylie Murray is playing like an MVP. And they knocked off the Rams 37-20 in LA yesterday. And the Browns, okay, they lost to Kansas City opening game. They kind of gave that game away, but they're now, I believe, 3-1. And what I like about them is Baker Mayfield has matured as a quarterback. And they have the best running tandem in the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. They have finesse, they have speed and physicality, and the Browns have a solid defense. So, as of right now, I would say the Browns and Cardinals.
Yeah, well, you know what? Why not? Those are pretty good reasons. You kind of convinced me. I mean, you look at that AFC North and you talk about a conference that's off to a great start with the Bengals, Ravens, and Browns. And then you got the Steelers at 1-3, probably the surprise of the division that they're 1-3. You just always expect the Steelers to be in the mix, right? And they're going to have some work to do to get back in this. And there have been a few surprises. Chiefs at 2-2. You know they're not going to.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to run and get up to 12 wins before it's all done. But that's an interesting Super Bowl pick. Before the season, I was trying to think, like, who do I think is going to be there? I kind of like the Bills and what they've done over the last few years. And good friend Paul McDonald from AM 800 News, massive Buffalo Bills fan. We know the history of the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. There's been devastation over the years. I would love for them to win it for Paul. He's a Dodger fan. They won it last year. Pretty good chance to win it this year. Get your Buffalo Bills in there. I don't know. Could you go Bills-Rams? With the Rams winning it. That's my pick.
Yeah, I just not sold on Josh Allen. I think he's a very good quarterback, but I just don't think they should have given a big deal after 1 year. I would have made him do it a second year. And honestly, I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't know if he's the one to take them and win a Super Bowl. I could be wrong, and I could eat humble pie on that. I just think the Bills right now, I think they're a good team. Their defense is great. Their pass rush could be a little bit better. But I think maybe to help Allen, they need to get more production out of Singletary and Zach Moss. I like Moss because he's a big physical type running back. Sort of reminds me of Nick Chubb. And if they could take a little more pressure off Allen from having to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game, maybe that would help Allen too. And maybe he wouldn't be under so much pressure to carry this offense.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, there's a long way to go, and we got to remember there's not only 16 games, there's 17 games this year, and I still can't get used to that when you talk about records at the end of the season. We're so used to 11-5, 12-4, 8-8, whatever. It's going to be a big change for football fans to think about that extra game. They took away some of the preseason games, which is fine by me, and added in that extra regular season game. But yeah, I mean, there's been a few surprises so far this year, but we will see what happens. That is the best thing about sports, is the fact that you don't know. And every year there is a surprise team that jumps up in every league, it seems like, and make the playoffs where you did not expect them to be there. And you look at the NFL right now, well, what is it? Is the Bengals at 3-1? Are they going to be the surprise team in the NFL? Are they going to, start putting a few wins together? Also some Cowboys at 3-1. And the Panthers at 3-1. I think those are some of the big surprises so far.
Yeah, definitely. But I definitely like the way the Cardinals are playing and the Browns are playing. But you're right. In a month from now, it could change as well.
Yeah, that's the best thing about sports. You never know. So as we get into the colder months, we'll see how this all plays out. I know the Lions will be, I don't know. What do you think, Lions? 2, 3 wins at this point? We're going 3 wins? 3-14 it would be?
Yeah, 3-14. I agree with you there. 3-14.
Yeah, I just don't know where the 3 are coming from. Looking at that schedule, they got a tough schedule ahead, considering because everybody who thinks, they're playing the Bears this week. The Bears are horrible. You know what people in Chicago are thinking? Oh, good, we're playing the Lions. They're horrible. We'll get a win. Yeah. But they play Minnesota this week at 1:00, and outside shot. But I'm thinking most of the wins are going to come at home.
I just don't see them beating the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, to be honest with you. And the Vikings are coming off a tough loss to Cleveland, so I definitely wouldn't book them there. I just hope the Eagles don't lose to the Lions on October 31st at Ford Field.
Well, we'll see. So you are why are you an Eagles fan?
I've always liked them because I hate Dallas, and I guess because the 1980 NFC Championship game, they beat the Dallas Cowboys, who dominated football in the 70s and early 80s, and they kind of ended the Cowboys' dominance with that championship game. Ron Jaworski, Wilbert Montgomery, Harold Carmichael, Vince Papale, who was in the movie Invincible, the bartender who became an Eagle, and I love the passion of the Philly sports fans. So yeah, the Eagles are my team. Yeah, the Eagles are my team, win or lose, and like I said, I was happy yesterday. We lost, but we did score 30 points. But the thing is, Jalen Hurts had a great game, and Devontae Smith, and I do see hope with the Eagles, like the Tigers, with these young players. And I just think it's going to take a little bit more time with the new coaching staff. The Eagles, to me, are similar to the Tigers right now. You got a new young coaching staff in. You got a young quarterback in Hurts and Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm optimistic that the Eagles, maybe not this year, obviously, but next year will be on the right path. Same with the Tigers.
Okay, well, it'd be a good year for you. I always liked those Eagles teams back in the night. Randall Cunningham, Jerome Brown, Reggie White when they still had him, Andre Waters. They had that tough defense with Buddy Ryan as the coach. Oh man, those were great teams.
And Brian Dawkins too, one of the best Eagles of all time. So. Okay, just going to ask you a few questions, Mike. I won't keep you too much longer. Is it okay you give me another 5-10 minutes, if that's okay?
All good, Chris.
Okay, no problem. I'll have to get you a Tim Hortons card for coming.
Oh, sweet! Yes, I love my free coffee. That's even better than the ones you pay for.
Okay, no problem. First question I wanted to ask you is, can you just tell my golf audience a little bit about yourself, and when did you decide you wanted to pursue a career in radio, obviously?
Well, the name came up earlier, and the team came up earlier, and maybe that's my connection to the Detroit Tigers. I remember my dad, when I was a kid, gave me like an old clock radio. This thing was like right out of the 50s or something, and I don't know. I would turn it on, and you go to bed early when you're a little kid. Like you go 7:30. Tiger games coming on. I think this was only an AM radio that I had too, so I put WJR on 760, the great voice of the Great Lakes, and listen to Ernie Harwell and Paul Carey do Tiger games, and it just kind of went from there. And I would listen to all these ball games as I got older, went through high school. I'd have them on the radio when I was doing my homework and stuff like that, because not a lot of games were on TV back then. You'd have to rely more on the radio. I mean, if they were on Channel 4 with George Kell and Al Kaline and the pregame show with Eli Zaret or Bernie Smilovitz, you stopped everything. I got to get my homework done. They're on TV because they're on like 20, 25 games a year. But the love of radio started there. And it kind of just grew, and I was just, I don't know, I was like really into it. I was a really shy kid too. And me and my buddy, Dave Intro, we would take our tape recorders and do interviews with each other, and we'd do different radio shows. And I don't know. And then in high school, well, what do you want to do for a living? I'm like, well, radio would be cool. And no jobs in radio, don't do that. And then, here we go. I got it 19 years old. I got into the radio station at AM 800 as a board-op producer, and, let's see, that was 1994. What are we at, 27 years later? I'm still there?
Wow, congratulations. Because
27.
I know.
Oh, come on.
That's the one thing I've noticed about everyone in this profession is that they've all been doing it for a long time, because it's not a job. It's a career. It's a passion. And I know some people that can't stay at a job for 27 days, let alone 27 years. And that's the one thing I've learned is everyone here I speak to is very passionate about what they do. And
we're very lucky to do what we do, in all honesty. Like, to be able to find a job in media is tough enough. Back then it was tough, and it's even tougher now if you want to get into traditional broadcasting, and to be able to do it and be there for so long. I'm lucky, I'm blessed, and I loved every second. Well, not every second of it, a lot of it though. But I'm going to keep doing it until they ask me to stop doing it, which will happen one day, and that's just the way it is. And then you got to move on to something else. But, to be able to do it for this long and do something I love and enjoy it and stay in my home city. A lot of radio people, media people, they got to move all over, job here, job there. I'm really lucky that I was born and raised in Windsor. grew up listening to AM 800 for the most part too as a kid. The morning show, listening to Cam and Lisa, and then to be that host of that show to take over was pretty cool.
Okay. Next question I wanted to ask you is, where did you attend school? And when you were starting out, Mike, did you have any mentor or mentors to give you a little guidance in the industry?
Yeah, I went to the University of Windsor, and I took communications for 3 years, got my degree there. While I was there, I was on CJAM, the university radio station, did a talk show there like once a week for a half hour or something like that. It was really cool. You get to run a board and get in front of a microphone. But the thing is, I knew a lot of that already because I had been working at the radio station since my last year of high school. So I was kind of ahead of the curve in the radio stuff from a lot of other people at CJAM or a lot of people in my broadcasting classes, radio classes. So, that's kind of how it started. I interned at WDFN. I mentioned that. And you know what? The one guy over there that really meant a lot and really took some time with me was Jamie Samuelson, who recently just, what was it? Was it about a year and a half ago? Passed away at a very young age. I think Jamie was 49 when he died. And nicest guy you will ever meet. Had more time for me than anyone else. Very good guy, very funny guy, great broadcaster. And, it was like, wow, all of a sudden you find out that he had cancer and he's gone. And it was shocking to see someone that I've known for a good part of my adult life. And Jamie and I weren't best friends or anything like that, but we'd keep in touch. We were friendly through the business and stuff like that and exchange messages once in a while. And even to, see somebody in the business that I see myself in and that I was just, acquaintances with go through that and pass away. It was like, it was so shocking because he was such a great guy, like I said, and he was really a big influence and a big help to me in learning how to be on the air.
And I always enjoyed his work too on the Detroit radio when I could listen to it. And he was he knew his stuff, but he never talked down to his audience. And he was generally a good guy on the radio too.
Yeah, dry sense of humor, sarcastic sense of humor. He had a wit about him, and like one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, he went to Northwestern. That says it all. If you go to a school like Northwestern, you know your stuff. So, him and Matt Derry, who you've had on the program, he was always a big influence, and I love Matt's style, to what he does with the Locked On podcast now for the Lions, and the Tell It Like It Is. He does it with some energy. He does it with a sense of humor as well. He knows his sports, and I love listening to Matt Derry. And he had just gotten to WDFN, I think, when I was interning there. So a couple of guys right there. And then, of course, at the radio station, Steve Bell, Cam Gardner, Lynn Martin, Lisa Williams, all these people that I knew before I even started working there, they were all a huge, huge help to what I've become as a broadcaster. Then you have your own ideas. You mix those in. Times change. You got to change with those times. Radio's a lot different now than it was. A lot more competition with social media and things like that than it was before. And, but you got to learn, from people that have done this for a long time. Take the lessons they have learned, apply them to today. Because a lot of the lessons still apply to 2021, even if they were from 20 years ago.
And like I said, any advice my guests can give me, I try to take it into consideration, and I'm trying to keep learning on here as well.
Well, you got the passion for it. This is not your main job, right? You worked, you have a full-time job, and you got good equipment. We can hear you well. We can see you well. You're reaching out to people all over the place. You've had some great guests on. And I think that's what you do. You know your stuff. I mean, you're rattling off stuff about the Eagles. I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about right now. He's talking way over my head about the Eagles. So that's it, right? You show personality. You entertain. You inform. That's what people want. What can I give my listeners or viewers that they can't get somewhere else? Anyone can look up the weather on their own now. They don't have to wait for me or Lisa to read the weather on AM 800. Anybody can look up the news and read it, but why do they want to hear Mike and Lisa talk about the stories of the day? Hopefully we're entertaining about it. Hopefully we have maybe an edge to us or an opinion that makes them think about something different. We give them a forum to get their views out by calling in or texting in. So there's so many different ways that you can change in the business and learn to change in the business. And you know what? I think you're doing it with this.
Well, thank you. And I did say something a little controversial on Twitter yesterday, not political or religious, but I basically told my followers on Twitter, I strongly believe Jalen Hurts is going to be a better quarterback than Josh Allen. And you should have saw the tweets I got within minutes because I went out against the norm. And to be honest, I really do feel long-term Hurts will be a better quarterback than Josh Allen. That's just my opinion. And like I said, sometimes not everyone's going to agree with you. But you got to stick to what you believe in, no matter
Absolutely.
if not everyone's going to always agree with you on everything.
No, absolutely, and that's why, and that's what it should be, right? Because I hate the political stuff that's on there, and the anti-vaxxers versus vaxxers. I get sick of talking about that.
Yes.
Sports is the toy department. We can battle over Hurts, over Stafford, over Allen, or whoever. At the end of the day, we're all friends and we're just watching football or we're just watching sports. It's not serious, and that's why sports, I think, is so great. It's an escape for a lot of people who are into sports, and it's not life or death, and it's not politics, it's not COVID, it's not anything. It's an escape for a lot of us, especially football. I find because of the fantasy football and gambling aspect, I think football is great for that.
Yeah, and 80% of my podcast is sports, but now I've been getting news reporters, anchors, comedians, actors. So I'm trying to spread out a little bit too, not just with sports, but doing interviewing, speaking to other guests from other industries as well. I don't.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Chris.
Okay.
Who's the dream guest? Who, if you're shooting for the stars, I want this person.
Do I get one or do I get five?
Oh, you want five? Okay, let's. I'm going to give you three.
Okay,
it's table of four, round table. You're the host. You're sitting with three other people. Who we got?
It has to be Steve Yzerman, Alan Trammell, and Isaiah Thomas.
Wow! And I know you wanted to put Yzerman in there.
Oh yes, I've liked Yzerman since he was with the Peterborough Petes of the OHL back in the early '80s, where they used to wear those hockey pants.
Oh my God, that's exactly what I thought of when you said Peterborough Petes and Yzerman with those long pants they used to wear. Horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'll give you five. Yzerman and who else?
I would say Tom Brady. Obviously, I'd like to speak to him. And this last one's controversial. Bill Belichick.
Oh, the hoodie.
Yeah.
I want to ask him about that weak hug he gave Brady at the end of Sunday Night Football last night.
Yeah, he's not a huggy type of guy.
He doesn't look like he's a hugger, no.
No.
The hoodie coming out, running with his hood down, the wind blows it off, and he gives like a little to Brady and bails. I guess they did talk in the locker room after, though, for like 25 minutes or so.
But I am working on trying to get maybe some Tiger alumni to come on here at some point. And it would be nice one day to even have Alan Trammell on because him and Lou Whitaker are the reason I became a Tiger fan in the 70s. Sweet Lou and Trammell. And it's a shame that Lou Whitaker is still not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, you look at his numbers, you compare him to other infielders, middle infielders, second baseman over time, and you talk about the analytics that have come out. His WAR is higher than wins above replacement, if you don't know what that is, which overall is the measure of a player compared to the average Major League Baseball player. If you have a positive WAR, it's a good thing, and Lou's is on par, if not higher, with some of the second basemen that are in the Hall of Fame.
And he was about a 285 career life batting average, 244 home runs, 1,058 RBIs, I believe, or 88, and he had 2,300 hits overall. And to me, and he had 3 consecutive Gold Gloves, 5-time All-Star, AL Rookie of the Year in 1978, and hit a 2-run home run in the '86 All-Star game against Dwight Gooden at the Astrodome. So
is that when he forgot his uniform?
No, that was 85 in Minnesota at the Metrodome. They had to put him
a uniform with a Sharpie, put a number 1 on the back for Sweet Lou. Yeah, Lou and Tram, I mean, you talk about two legendary figures in Detroit sports. It is a shame they didn't go into the Hall of Fame together. I was glad to see Trammell get in there, obviously. And, two of my favorite athletes of all time, if you follow me on AM 800, my dogs are my dog that we lost was Tram, my first dog, and the second one that we still have is Lulu, and they got named after Tram and Lulu.
So, And I'm hoping they'll retire his number because I'd like to go down to Comerica Park next year and see his number one finally retired by the Tigers, which should have been done years ago. It's been long overdue.
Well, I think it was scheduled for this year, and they delayed it. I think they always had a long-standing tradition. Unless you're in the Hall of Fame, you don't get your
Yep.
number retired.
Yep.
I think they're skipping that. Well, they skipped it for Willie Horton because of what he meant to Detroit at that time during the riots of the '68 team. And I think they're going to put one up, from what I understand. I think I remember reading that it was supposed to happen this year. They delayed it because of the smaller crowds. They want to have a bigger crowd there. And then, of course, in maybe 7 years, you'll see 24 go up.
Yes, definitely 24 and 35 and number one. Those are the next three numbers.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see statue of Whitaker and Trammell, and I want to see one of Verlander and one of Cabrera.
Yeah, you got to make some room out there. You got to get those statues up because you got to. I think you got to. You got. You're right. You got to have the Trammell and Whitaker turning a double play statue. That's what you got to have. Like Tram flipping the ball to Lou or something like that.
Okay. Hey, Mike, I just want to ask you just a couple more quick questions. Did you do any volunteer work, internships? And if so, how much did it help with getting into the industry?
Oh, I did, and you make huge connections when you volunteer, when you do internships. I know I did some interning and volunteering with Kojiko. At the time, did some sports reporting for the University of Windsor. I mentioned earlier I interned at WDFN. I think I did that through school as well. That was a 3-month internship, and you talk about a guy. I was such a huge WDFN fan, Stoney and Wojo and Jamie and Greg and the different hosts they had, Sean Belizian and all these guys they had. I used to listen to them 24 hours a day when that station came on the air, and I'm in the room with these guys. They're like superstars to me. And that was really one of the cool experiences. And this was well before 9/11. I had to go across every day, Monday to Friday, and get through the toll. And they weren't too far from the tunnel where they were at in this awful garage shed. It was unbelievable. But it was a great experience. And anybody getting into any industry, whether it's broadcasting or whatever, I mean that's unfortunately what you got to do. You got to work for free for a while, and hopefully you make an impression on someone that makes decisions and they keep you around.
And that's what I'm doing with the podcast. And I'm also volunteering with Rogers TV as a camera operator for the Guelph Storm games as well. And I love doing that too, because I feel like I'm a part of the broadcast and I'm a part of a team. And you don't realize how much work there is in a TV production, even for an OHL game, setting up, tearing down, and then sometimes technical difficulties during a broadcast happen. So you have to go with the punch or fly in, stuff like that. And Rogers TV has been really a good experience so far.
Oh, that's great. And that's the thing. I've done some TV work and I've done some video work. And, this is okay. You got a webcam, you got a microphone, you're all set. But a real TV production, sports, or a live production, leave me off TV. I'll take my radio anytime. But, that's another change in the media industry. Lisa and I do this show on social media called After 9 every morning at 9:30. And we use this program that we're on right now, StreamYard, to go out to, Twitter and Facebook and things like that. And it works great to get to different platforms and be able to interact with your audience a little more in a social media forum. A lot of people say they enjoy that even more than they do the radio show because it is a little more personal.
Definitely. I assume you guys are still working from home, or are you guys going to be back at the station at some point?
Well, the back of the station thing keeps getting backed up. I mean, when COVID first started, Lisa and I started broadcasting at home. I think Lisa was before me, March 2020. I've been here since April 2020 in this very spot. It's where I do the show every day. And then it was okay, we'll be back in June. Couple months, we'll be back. Then it was September. Then it was the new year of 2021. Then it was September of 2021. Now it's end of October. Who knows? If we're back at the station before the end of the year, I would be surprised. And I'm fine with it. I'll stay right here. I got Lulu's bed right behind me, so she's behind me. I got my own coffee. Kelly's upstairs. I'm fine. Leave me alone. Just forget about me. I'm going to be right here.
Yeah, because I'm hoping to eventually at some point do some volunteer work at a local radio station, Magic or CJOY in Guelph. But unfortunately, right now with the COVID, I think it's going to be a little bit longer. So I just have to continue to do what I'm doing here and continue to volunteer at Rogers TV for now.
And are they going to broadcast the games in Guelph this year on TV?
The Storm games, yes, they will be on Rogers TV. The opening game is in Kitchener on October 8th, and then the home opener, which I'm going to be a part of as a camera operator, is Saturday, October 9th, against Kitchener Rangers at the Sleeman Center at 7 o'clock. And I know the Windsor Spitfires start up this Friday and Saturday as well. And I had Manny Pava, one of the good guys in the industry, come on and talk about his career in TV and radio and his involvement with the Spitfires as well. Really good guy, Manny.
Great guy, and they have a great podcast as well that Manny's a part of.
Yes,
that I've been a guest on as well. So I'm making the podcast circuit, but there's this called For Future Consideration, so you can subscribe to that along with Chris on your favorite podcast app. So we will look for you in Guelph watching the games. You got the headset on and the camera. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I do the held hand camera, which is 35 pounds.
Oh my God, 35 pounds.
On my shoulder, but I'm building up my shoulder strength, and I'm in the corner of the rink, and I get all the face-offs and the fights, if there's any, or scrums.
Oh, nice.
The action, and I actually love it. The tripod cameras are okay too, but I like being the one in the corner and getting all the close-ups and the face-offs and stuff. And whatever they ask me to do, I just try my best, and they've been really good with me because I'm 49 years old and I'm still learning everything.
Good man. Never stop learning, right? Always something to learn no matter what your age.
Okay. I'm just going to, 2 quick questions, Mike. I'm going to let you go, and then hopefully I can have you come back on again in the future, and we'll talk even more sports.
Anytime. I'm always down with talking sports. Anytime.
Okay, definitely. The next one I wanted to ask you quickly, what's your most memorable story interview you've done at 800 CKLW in Windsor? And how long have you worked alongside your co-host, Lisa Williams? And did it take a little bit of time to develop chemistry with her on the morning show? Which is 5 to 9, Monday to Friday.
5 to 9, AM 800, Monday to Friday. Tune in, 50,000 watt blowtorch, CKLW out of Windsor, Ontario. And you can watch us or listen to us live. You can watch us on your TV, Windsor, as well. We're on there. We're everywhere. So, yeah, make sure you check it out no matter where you are. And, Lisa and I, we were just talking about this morning. We've been together now doing this show for 18 years. It's hard to believe it's been that long. And one of the things that helped is that I was kind of like slipped in a little bit, when I was younger. I was the on-the-street reporter on Cam and Lisa's show. So I would drive around all morning reporting on different things that were happening, whether it be a car crash or an event that was taking place, a news thing. So I'd be going around, and then when one of them took vacation, actually more when Cam took vacation, I would fill in for Cam and do the show with Lisa. So we kind of got an early practice run and saw what it was like to work together. And then, we always had pretty good chemistry, and it just worked. So it's been a long time. Now, what was a memorable story? I think it's the stuff that you don't see on air. And I know, you've done all this work, TV, behind the scenes and stuff like that. Sometimes something happens that the audience doesn't know, which cracks you up, and you are laughing, and they don't know why. But they may be laughing with you because they kind of know something happened that you can't control. It happened this morning, actually, and we just kind of started laughing. And, I think that's the best thing when you get those laughs that you don't expect and you're just having fun and there's a flow to the show and everything's going well. And the most memorable thing, though, I've done in broadcasting happened, I think I was in my mid-20s or something like that, and the Tigers had just moved to Comerica Park, and they had a play-by-play fantasy broadcast booth. And I called them and I said, listen, I work at AM 800. I want to come out, try this out. And so I did, and we're over there. Next thing you know, I'm sitting at the microphone doing some play-by-play. They put Ernie Harwell next to me to be my color commentator. It's me, Ernie, the Tigers, the Texas Rangers, and I'm calling an inning with Ernie Harwell.
Wow.
It wasn't broadcast anywhere. The tape failed. It was a cassette tape. I'm like, oh my God, you could barely hear it. I got to see if someone can fix this up for me. And I got to do an inning of baseball with Ernie Harwell, which was like stunning to me because I've listened and just thought of so much of this guy since I was like 6, 7 years old.
Wow. And he's one of my favorite. And he signed a ticket stub for me from Tiger Stadium to a game I went to on my 13th birthday in 1985. And that's something I'll never sell or anything like that. It's
Oh,
one of my favorite autographs. And really, you know what? If he was alive nowadays, I'm sure he'd even come on the podcast because
oh,
I've heard nothing
absolutely.
but this is Jerry Howarth really liked the guy. He welcomed Jerry and Tom when they became the Blue Jays radio guys. And he was one of the best guys in the industry, along with Vin Scully too.
Yeah, oh, you talk about a legend, Vin Scully. I mean, amazing, right? And those old school baseball announcers that just have that voice, and Ernie had that southern drawl that you wouldn't hear anymore. Nobody would pick Ernie now to be their broadcaster. If you didn't know he was Ernie Harwell and what he would become, he said in a tape, no one's hiring Ernie. But he was one of the best of all time. But with that southern drawl, there was like just a uniqueness to it and a comfort in his voice and the stories he told without any notes. And he would just have these stories. Baseball's a tough game to call on radio. There's a lot of downtime. And he would tell these stories, and they would just flow in and out of the play-by-play. It was like magic what he did.
Definitely. So, and last question I want to ask you, Mike, because I know you got to get some sleep. Last question. Any advice for those looking to pursue a career in radio, not just myself, and where can my audience again find you on social media?
Okay, well, if you just go into Google and search Mike Lisa 800, all of our different links will show up. Our website has our podcast, our After 9 video blog thing that we do every day, and that's always a lot of fun. It's a very lighter look at what's happening around Windsor, Essex, and what's happening in the news. And yeah, that's the best place. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, if it's working, all those places we're on there. So just search at Mike Lisa 800. And you will find us 5 to 9 weekday mornings. And for those pursuing a career, do what you do, Chris. Do what you can. Start your own podcast. Volunteer at your local radio station or TV station. And don't expect to say, yeah, I want to do the games. Well, what do you mean do the games? Yeah, I want to be the play-by-play announcer for the Storm, if you don't mind. That's where I like to start. No, you got to start, as they used to say, sweeping the floors, whether it's, grabbing coffee for the broadcasters or working the camera like Chris, you're doing, or putting equipment away or doing it all. Do what they ask, and hopefully you catch someone's attention, have a good attitude, work hard, and hopefully you'll be the next Ernie Harwell, Vin Scully, or whoever.
Okay. And did I pronounce your last name wrong on here? I just wanted to make sure I had it right.
Nobody gets it right, Chris.
It's Kakuk. Kakuk.
Kakuk is the proper pronunciation of my name. I get Keiko. I get Kakuk. I get, what else do I get? I get all different pronunciations. I'm like, oh my God, why couldn't I have been Smith or Thomas or something like that? But it's Kakuk.
I did have a Smith on my show a few days ago, Eric Smith from the Raptors. Another really
nice.
Good guy, too. And he paid his dues, like you said, Mike. He paid his dues completely. And like I said, I was really lucky to get him on. But the name pronunciations I'm still working on because I always want to try to get people's last names right because I just try to be professional and all that, too.
It's not easy. I get them wrong all the time. I'm trying to work on that myself. So we'll work on it together.
Okay, deal. I'm going to let you go, so go get some sleep, Mike. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on live with CDP Podcast, and I'd love to have you back on again as a guest, and we'll just talk strictly Red Wings, Tigers, Pistons, anything but the Lions.
Okay. Oh, hey, you sold me there. We'll get into the winter sports next time. Pleasure being here, Chris. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. Anyways, guys, I want to say thanks to Mike Kakuk from CKLW 800 in Windsor for coming on live with CDP Podcast tonight. Really appreciate it. Mike had a long day at the station, and he has to get up at 3:30 in the morning for his morning show with Lisa Williams from 5 to 9. And before I go, you can check out their station at iHeartRadio.ca/AM800. And you can follow Mike on Twitter at Radio Mike 519 or at Mike Lisa 800 as well. So I really appreciate him coming on, guys. And just to let you guys know, there is a change to my next podcast. It was supposed to be tomorrow at Tuesday, October 5th at 6 o'clock with Kelsey Nicole Nelson. She's the host of the Listen in KNN on Fox Sports Radio 1340, and she's also the host of Washington Unfiltered on NBC Sports Washington, and she's also a freelance TV reporter host. She was supposed to come on tomorrow at 6 o'clock, but she's had to reschedule. So Kelsey Nicole Nelson, my next guest, will be on Thursday, October 7th at 7:20. So again, my next podcast will not be tomorrow night. It will be this Thursday, October 7th at 7:20 p.m. Eastern with Kelsey Nicole Nelson, the host of Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio 1340 in the Washington area, and also the host of the Washington Football Club Unfiltered on NBC Sports Washington. And she's also a freelance TV reporter and host as well. So I am looking forward to my next podcast with her at 7:20. So anyways, guys, before I go, I'm going to show a quick clip of Mike and Lisa from CKL 800 in Windsor as well, so you guys can see some of their talk show they do Monday to Friday from 5 to 9 in Windsor on 800 AM. And just to let you know, Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is going to be downloaded on Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Castbox, Spotify, and LinkedIn. And I want to say thank you to everyone tonight for watching live on my YouTube channel and on my Twitter page. Unfortunately, Facebook page has been down all day, so I will download the audio to my Facebook page later as well. Just one moment, I'm going to show you a clip of Mike and Lisa's work from CKLW 800 in Windsor, Ontario. Just going to put it up here 1 sec, guys, and we'll just play it for a couple minutes.
Summer's the best, right? Because you're off school, you're having fun with your friends, you got your life to yourself, nothing else to do. So, that might be a factor.
33% of people said summer is their favorite season. 22%, number 2, spring. What? And then fall was at 19%, and only 7% of people said they like winter best. And then there's I don't know. But Gen Z preferred winter to spring. A lot of snowboarders maybe. And those 65 and older were the opposite, loving spring over winter by a huge margin.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm with you. I'm a fall guy. At least early fall. Once we get into December, it's still technically fall, but it feels like winter. But I don't like days like this, obviously. But, a nice crisp, Lisa, fall day with your chunky sweater on and your apple cider and your warm donuts. Why not?
Exactly. Love that. And the most common activities for fall that people love and look forward to the most were visiting the pumpkin patch, picking apples, and corn mazes.
How about football, fall golf, baseball playoffs?
Well, you could associate that with fall as well. Okay. I'm sure. Yeah. I think of football when I think fall.
Oh, absolutely. I think football starts too early. It started Michigan State started at the end of August when it was 90 degrees. I mean, that's too. Let's start football around Canadian Thanksgiving, beginning of October.
Anyways, guys, that's just a clip of Mike and Lisa from CKLW 800 in Windsor, Ontario. Again, you can listen to them on social media or on the internet on 800 AM there, and they're on the morning drive from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday to Friday. Again, I want to say thanks to Mike Kakuk for coming on Live with CDP podcast. Again, guys, my next podcast now won't be until Thursday, October 7th, 7:20 with Kelsey Nicole Nelson, a freelance TV reporter and anchor as well, and the host of Listen In with KNN. And I'm looking forward to speaking to Kelsey. And you can check out her website too at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. All right, guys, I just want to say again, thank you to everyone who watched this live on YouTube and Twitter and later on my audio podcast. So I'm going to call it a show. Have a great night, guys, and we'll see you this Thursday, October 7th at 7:20 with Kelsey Nicole Nelson, and we're going to talk about her career and maybe some Washington football club as well. All right, guys. Thanks again for watching Live with CDP, and we'll see you guys Thursday night at 7:20.